Jujutsu Kaisen takes a look at the myriad of Japanese yokai stories and legends, where more often than not the only way for humanity to triumph is intricate and often highly ritualistic way to outsmart the supernatural, and goes, "Yep, I could just punch that." And punch that it does. The show is a battle shonen through and through, with some of the best fight choreography in recent memory, and instead of just flashy animation that hides the otherwise rather poor fight execution, like, oh, I don't know, Demon Slayer, it's flashy animation that highlights just how dynamic the fight scenes are. But before I get deeper into why you should most definitely watch Jujutsu Kaisen, about 92% of you who watch my videos are not subscribed, and with that magical number of 1000 looming oh so close in the horizon, I'd appreciate it greatly if you could hit that button. Thank you, now back to the video. So, Jujutsu Kaisen is, at least in my opinion, the best new gen shonen out there, and you should definitely give it a watch if for some reason you haven't already. But what makes it so good? Well, aside from the briefly mentioned battles that, let's face it, make or break any battle shonen, JJK just seems to have it all. The show takes place in a world not too dissimilar to ours, but one in which dark, or in this case cursed energy born of negative feelings that people emit manifests in curses, that generally just cause havoc, killing people, breaking stuff, and for some reason chilling on a beach drinking margaritas. A private beach, mind you, one to which humans aren't invited. I know, right? The audacity. These beasties naturally aren't visible to the average Joe, and the show has a society of people who can not only see the cursed spirits, but also possess a myriad of powers of their own that help them deal with the monsters, and this is now starting to sound an awful lot like Bleach. And yes, the show, like most other battle shonen, does share a lot of its major elements with other popular stories in the genre, which actually helps it along immensely. Most things Jujutsu Kaisen throws at you will feel at least somewhat recognizable, making it far more approachable than it otherwise might be, as the other side of the anime does delve into the ancient legends and myths about yokai and other evil spirits of Japan. Not super specifically, mind you, but the major elements are there, and when it's convenient, some things are even directly borrowed. Just look at the main antagonist, Ryoma Skura, who has an entire legend of its own in Japanese mythology. This sadistic and oddly hot king of curses has, however, gotten a bit of a glow up from their original depiction, and now manifests in the show in the form of, you guessed it, shriveled fingers. These highly dangerous cursed object, inventively named Skura's fingers, are the only trace left of him, that is, until the protagonist Itadori Yuji does the only sensible thing and eats one. And then, in typical Chosen One fashion, instead of manifesting and taking over Yuji's body, Skura is forced into sort of hibernation, as the main character just happens to be the one in a trillion vessel that can contain the most powerful cursed spirit to have ever lived. Which should make it immediately obvious that even here, some of those shonen rules cannot be avoided, and this is one of them. Things, no matter how unlikely, sometimes happen just because it's convenient. And why not? It's not like this is one of those friendship is magic anime where the heroes always win, as from time to time things can get really grim, but not in an edgy way. It's not trying to be Tokyo Ghoul 2.0 playing Paramore and saying how the world doesn't understand it. It's grimdark in a way that fits the situation. The curses are genuinely evil and commit horrible acts, so things being midday bright with little bunnies hopping around the background just wouldn't be fitting. And it's not like everything is just doom and gloom either. Jujutsu Kaisen understands the importance of balancing the darkness with other things. Sure, there are depictions of grief as people pass, and things can get a little depressing at times, but there is also companionship and humor that works as a counterbalance for people getting torn to shreds, which makes it hit all the harder when bad things happen, and they do happen quite a lot. And because of that, this is one of those anime where you might not want to get too attached to any of the characters, which may be a difficult task since the characters are simply amazing, well, at least most of them. The main character, Itadori, being the sort of exception. I mean, even the author themselves said that they aren't awfully fond of Yuji. Not that he would be a bad character, by no means. The initially happy-go-lucky boy slowly grows as he sees how the world isn't this nice place full of friendly people as the bodies start to pile up, and slowly becomes more determined to help those in need, all the while his inner demon does his level best to make him lose his mind and go full-on murder hobo. But when compared to the likes of that inner demon Skura or the starry-eyed god amongst mere mortals Gojo Satoru, or even the level-headed salaryman Kento Nanami, well, Yuji just doesn't hit all that hard. Nor does he get the frankly ridiculous amount of simping that every other man in this show seems to get, so there's that as well. Look, I'm not saying I don't understand where people are coming from, I just question the choice to simp for Skura when Nanami and Mei exist is all I'm saying. But as amazing as the fights may be, and no matter how hot every character is, well, this is not a narrative masterpiece. It is a shonen, and with that come certain limitations. unless you're Attack on Titan, of course. The story of Jujutsu Kaisen is, at least so far, perfectly adequate, and there is solid reasoning behind everything. It's not just fights for the sake of fights, and what power-ups happen do tend to make sense. Mainly, I suspect, because in an effort to combat the usual bane of shonen anime, that being power creep, Gege-sensei made the rather brave decision that every Jujutsu sorcerer's power cap is largely determined at birth, meaning that previously already powerful characters wouldn't just steadily increase in potency until everyone is calling down meteors and leveling cities in the blink of an eye. Speaking of calling meteors and leveling, if not entire cities, then at least parts of cities, mainly Shibuya, one thing that Jujutsu Kaisen gets right is the powers people possess, and yes, some of them do possess the ability to do great harm to both people and civilian infrastructure, but the way they do it contains some of the most inventive abilities I have ever seen in a shonen. And it even manages to avoid the usual pitfall of everyone has to have a unique ability, as there is certain emphasis based on heritable techniques around which entire prestigious clans of sorcerers are built. But it's still not a dime in a dozen everyone uses shadow summoning either. There is subtle difference based on the individual, even if on paper the two might share largely the same powers. You have the fairly normal abilities like controlling the user's own blood, fire and magma, all the way to creating fake memories of companionship to math-driven cutting abilities and the harnessing of electron repulsion in order to become a living god. There is, however, the rather odd part of explaining your ability to the opponent, supposedly making it more potent, which can seem a tad odd, but it's one of those shonen things. That, and I'd suspect it's there more for the medium of manga, where conveying exactly what is happening can be a lot more difficult than in an anime. But arguably the best part of the power system is the concept of domain expansion, where the user stretches out their inner domain to engulf their opponents and themselves, assuring victory, which at first glance might seem like a dumb addition that would just simplify the battle part of this particular battle shonen, if it weren't for the myriad of rules tied to such a powerful technique. In reality, the domain expansion ends up being more of a high-stakes gamble that is rarely used, but instead the threat of it adds an extra layer of complexity into the battle strategies used by both the Curses and the Jujutsu sorcerers. Plus, the domains look damn cool. And on the notion of looking damn cool, Studio MAPPA really did an outstanding job with both seasons as well as the prequel movie of Jujutsu Kaisen 0. But be that as it may, it's important to keep in mind that while MAPPA may be responsible for some of the best animation out there, especially when it comes to animating battles of any kind, the way they treat their animators is far from acceptable. Now, this is not a critique against the work they've done on for Jujutsu Kaisen, but as the currently airing second season of the anime has once again brought to light the frankly Black Company-esque practices of MAPPA, it's also not something that should be ignored as we watch their masterpiece unfold. That, and if you're new to the show, don't be confused by the order in which the parts of Jujutsu Kaisen came out. It does make sense, at least somewhat, since we went from Season 1 into a prequel movie, into the prequel of that prequel in the beginning of Season 2, and now finally into the long-awaited Shibuya arc, the praises of which the manga readers have long been singing, and for a damn good reason. It is where the story gets really grim, but also really good. All in all, I wasn't kidding when I said that Jujutsu Kaisen is, at least in my opinion, the best new-gen shonen out there. It avoids the usual pitfalls of the genre, while still not venturing too far afield to the point where its approachability would suffer. Sure, if you're looking for a happy-go-lucky kind of story where the good guys always win and friendship is magic, this is not it, but I'd still encourage you to give it a try. 9 out of 10 Cheese recommends. And on that note, thank you for watching. I would again encourage you to subscribe if you haven't already, it really does help out, especially with that goal of the magical 1k looming oh so close on the horizon. If you have already subscribed, thank you so much. On top of that, you can always comment your thoughts down below to boost the algorithm, like this if you liked it, dislike if you didn't, check the links in the description if you want to engage with me outside of YouTube. With this, I have been Cheese, and I hope to see you next time. Ta-ta for now.